Hi guys, it's Katie here again from Creativa. I have something a little different that I'd like to share with you today. I have been making mandalas or drawing them. They're hand drawn. So I know that I can draw or I can even cut out a mandala using my Cricut, but it's not quite what the experience that I was after. I wanted to do something sort of relaxing and something a bit different from making books and albums and things. So I designed a template and a set of a stencil and a set of templates that you can use to make your own hand-drawn designs like this. So let me show you what they are. First of all, and this is not unusual, there are templates or stencils around just like this one. So this is the base stencil that you would use to start making your mandala, and I've just cut this out of cardstock using my Cricut or any electronic cutting machine. I'll also include, so I'm going to put this in my Etsy store, and I'll also try and include a PDF so that if you wanted to cut it out by hand you could. And then there's also these little pieces here, which are the sort of the bits that you trace around to get your shapes and for them to stay consistent and all the same size, because that's the problem that I've had in the past. I've never been happy because, so one of my favourite shapes to do is this one here, but I could never get both sides the same when I draw it. One side would be fine and the other side would never look the same, and they would never be the same width. And so this way I can use these and draw around to make them whatever size I want them to be. So I've got these little guys here, my little favourite shape for them, and there's 8 of each one of these. There's 8 of them. They come with the drawn center lines on them. So I found that you could either print and cut them, which I did on my Cricut, but I found it was actually more accurate if I used the pencil. So if I changed these lines to pen lines and drew them using my Cricut, and obviously cut them out using my Cricut, I found that was far more accurate than the print and cut, because sometimes your print and cut can be off, and so your line could be a millimetre or 2 off to the side, which obviously then isn't centre, is it? So there's 8 of these. So I just changed the lines from cut lines to draw lines and attached them to the piece, and then got my Cricut to cut them out for me and used the fine line pen. I wrote the number on each of them just for my own reference. So there are 8 of those. The largest one here is my number 8, and then they go down to the smallest one, which is 1. These leaf shapes, that's the largest one, and this little bubby here is the smallest one. And so as you can see, I've written my numbers on them, and I'll show you why I do that, but it's completely up to you. But the center lines are really helpful. I found them to be really helpful. So this one you can use for the points that way. Did I use points on here? Yeah. So there's some points on here. And you could also use them for their sort of bottom area like that. And this little tiny one here, I think, is the one I use for these ones here. So they're so tiny. This one's so tiny. I just held it on there like that and traced around it. So you've got sort of 2 shapes on that one. The same as this one here. You've got the sort of pointy leaf side here, but then you've also got this rounded side here. So these I used here. I don't think I used the 5. I think I used a different size, but that's those ones, and there's 8 of those as well. And then there's these ones here, and I used those to make I think the center bit here on those ones, I used this shape. So that's basically it. This is what you can do. So I drew this one, I drew it in pencil, and then I swapped over to and did my lines in this Uniball fine. So by fine it means I bought a pack of these. These are my favourite. Uniball iFine rollerball pens, waterproof and fade proof, 0.7 millimeters. That's what I really like. Well, I really like these. So let me show you how I went about this. So I drew it, and then this is just some watercolour that I put down just for a bit of colour. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, but anyway. So let me just show you how it works. I had this idea that, you know, if you were making a book cover, so if perhaps you wanted to cover your book with this, and I actually think it would look really nice, just craft paper and black ink. But anyway, if I was doing a book cover, I might not want to have a big mandala right in the centre. That might be a bit obvious, but I could have one off to the side. So then I'll just be doing half my mandala, and that would be sort of like on the edge of my book. Don't know if I'm explaining myself very well. Let's imagine this is my book. And I just had the mandala coming off this side here. That's what I was thinking about. So I could just do half of it. So I'll just figure out where I wanted to put my mandala, and then using my pencil I would just mark that centre hole. So I've just cut it out of cardstock, but you could cut it out of something stronger if you wanted to, but you literally only use this for a second just to do this. I'm just drawing the lines for each of these, and it's just giving me the radius of my circle, and of a bunch of circles, like so. So this is about an 8-inch in diameter circle. If you're using your Cricut to cut it out, I think you'll find 8 inches is enough. I did this one here, which is a 12-inch design, using this 8-inch radius. It was no problem. So anyway, I'm just drawing these lines in. This is literally all you need this stencil for. So, you know, you could definitely cut it out of something better than cardstock if you wanted to, or you could put 2 lots of cardstock together. I quite like the idea of taking this when we go on little trips in our new caravan. Just in the evening, you know, I can just whip out my stencils and my templates and draw mandalas. I like to do something while I'm watching TV as well. I can't just sit. I bet that's lots of you in the same boat. So I just draw that. Make sure I've got my centre point. And that is basically my guidelines for my mandala. If you want to extend the lines because you want to go out past the 8 inches, then all you need to do is find, so here's my centre point and there's my line, is just extend that line. Which is what I did with this one here, just to make sure that these big centre areas were, these big areas around here were all centered nicely, so my line extended right out to here. So then you just decide how you want to design it. So these guys here are my favourites. I tend to find that you use the smaller pieces closer to the centre and the larger pieces on the way out, but that's completely up to you. I tend to block in the biggest sizes first. So for this one, you can line up with this centre line. You can easily line this up with your line to make sure, with the line on your template, on the stencil, to make sure you're in line. You could also line up this centre line here with the edge of the stencil, like so, and then draw it around here. Let me just finish extending these lines so I'm making some sense to you. Now, you don't have to extend these lines, but I just thought I would demonstrate that I say you would maybe use the bigger pieces on the outside, but that doesn't have to be the case at all. You can do whatever you like. But let's say I'm going to use number 7, and I'm going to line it up so that I'm going to line it up on my line, and I'm going to line it up so that my center, or the bottom of my piece, is on this second bit here. That's where I'm going. So just line it up, and I'm going to draw around there, and then I'm going to do the same on this one. So I'll just line it up exactly the same, draw that around. Now my pieces are overlapping, but that just means I get to decide later if I want which lines I want to keep. So, whoops. So I'm just going to go, I just go around and draw around these. I'm trying to be quicker for the sake of the camera, which isn't always the best idea. So I'm just lining them up on there. So I've decided on this one that I'm not going all the way out. I'm not using this last radius, but I'm using the second one in. You can add to it later as well. So I've just drawn those in. So then I might decide that I want to use a different shape for the next one down. So maybe I'll use a leaf. Let's see. And it's just a little bit of trial and error trying to decide what thing you might want to use next. So for my leaf, I might want my leaf to come up here like this, so that in the middle of this guy here I have my leaf shape. Now, do I want the round bottom or do I want the pokey top? If I came down here even to this one, and I think I like that design, so I'm just going to go around here. Whoop. And this one, I'm just going to mark them all in like so. Okay, so then I've marked my next design in here, and then I can choose something else that I might want to put in there. And now when it comes to these ones here, I think I'm going to erase those lines so that these just come down to this, they're just going to come down to this V here, like that. So if I just erase those lines, then I get a better idea of how my design is looking. Not so many pencil marks. I'm just going down to there. I'm just going down to here and here. Oops. Okay, so I've got just little bits there. So I actually feel like I might add another round around there. So let's grab these. If I put that one right there on the center, or do I want to line it up? No, I think I do want to. I could put another layer of these all the way around. Whoops, try not to move it. So I could do a row of those all the way around like so. Or I could use a smaller size. And, you know, it's completely up to you. You just try it out. See, just do a little section, see if you like it. If you don't, you rub it out and you try a different shape. So what could I do now? I could do some little, I could come right down here and do some of these little guides from here maybe. So I'm just lining that one up. I might go right up to this line here. So I'm lining it up with the bottom of this shape and with that center line. And then I'll just draw this little section in, just a little top bit, like that. And then I can do that all the way around. So then if you had a whole collection of those together, you'd end up with like a little flower design, which is what I did on with that one. Was it that one? No, this little one here, right on the inside, I did like this. So you end up with a little flower all the way around here. Like so. And so you just use these little templates and sort of just play around making your own design. And the beauty of them is that at least all your shapes will always be consistent. So, you know, you won't get halfway around and then realise that you've done a shape, you've been hand drawing a shape that, you know, got a bit wonky as you went around, wasn't the same shape or size, which I always find was the problem. So then I can decide where I want these to end. So I could just take those little end bits out, and then I'd have this flower design that went all the way around there. So then once you've done that, you can come back and you could use the smaller shape. So one of the things that I did when I was doing this one is when I used a piece, I just wrote which piece it was down. So on these ones, I used this one here and it was number 8. So I just really in small wrote 8 on there. And this one here was the 8. And then I think this one was the 7. And then this one was my 2. And the reason I do that is then if I wanted to do this where I have a little line, one shape here and then another shape inside. So this might have been my 8 one, probably was my 8 here. So I drew those all the way around as my 8. And then my inside one, I probably went a couple of sizes smaller. So it was really easy for me to come back and then do a couple of sizes smaller. No, it might have only been one smaller. Something like that. I don't know, maybe I used a different shape altogether. Or I lined it up separately. There we go, like that. And then I just drew around that one. So that way I'd know if I wanted to come back and do a couple of sizes smaller to have a little bit around here, I could just line this one up right underneath it and draw around it, and I would know that it would match exactly, that shape would match exactly. So that's just one little tip. And of course, because you're doing it in pencil, then you can rub it out. And then once I had my basic design, I used my pen and went over these my basic design with that one, and then that's when I then decided, you know, how am I going to fill it in. So I used some of the smaller shapes to do the filling in, and then I just drew mainly just drew lines and some circles. So and I think once you put the whole thing together and you have that repetitive pattern, and if you reuse things, so I've got these little leaves here that I used here, and then I also used up here. So actually the repetitiveness works really well. I've got lines here and then lines out here, and that worked really well. I've got triangles here and triangles here. If you just, and dots here and dots here, if you just use the same kind of thing, it kind of holds it all together and you don't have to think too hard. And lines and dots, you can't go wrong, right? Anyway, if you're interested in this for something a little bit different, a little bit of fun, I'm going to put these in my Etsy store. I will make it as one file or one listing for the PDF and also the SVG file. So you can either print it out and cut around it. You might not want to cut around the template. Where's the template? You might not want to hand cut that one. If you don't want to hand cut that one, then you could just use like carbon paper underneath and trace it, or else you could just use your compass and draw your circles. The really handy thing is definitely these little guys here. So anyway, I will pop a listing for this in my Etsy store in case you're interested in having a go. Otherwise, I'll see you guys soon. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now. Bye.